Hello there, and welcome back to the Business of Story. I'm your host, Park Howell, and I'm curious. What is your customer-centric go-to-market strategy, and how does it shape and inform your brand storytelling? But maybe you're not as comfortable with your strategy as you'd like to be because it's not concise, it's not clear, nor is it very compelling, and you feel like you're lost in the worldwide marketing wilderness out there. Well, you're in luck because our guest today is a go-to-market expert. His name's Phillip Swan, and he's dedicated himself to enhancing the synergy between marketing, sales, operations, product development, leadership, and partnerships. Phillip crafts seamless customer experiences spanning pre-awareness to purchase and advocacy, ensuring a holistic approach to the customer journey and complete affinity to your brand story. So tune in and put your brand story strategy to the test on this edition of the Business of Story. When I was interviewing Phillip about how brands carve out their niche through their go-to-market strategy, a funny comedy skit came to my mind. There was this Oriental rug dealer in Seattle whose go-to-market strategy was centered around, believe it or not, going out of business. They'd faithfully run, with a straight face, their TV spots announcing yet another closing of one of their stores. So, obviously, you had to hurry in to buy today, which, to my understanding, these stores never actually closed. They were obviously leveraging urgency in their advertising. This caught the attention of Seattle comedian Pat Cashman. He produced this send-up of their advertising strategy for a local TV show called Almost Live, Seattle's version of Saturday Night Live. I love what this bit says about our advertising industry.
At Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium, we're saying goodbye. We're closing our store forever, and you can save like never before. Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium is saying, that's it, it's over, we're done, time's up, farewell, so long, toodaloo, we're out of here. We really mean it, no kidding, this is really it this time. I know we've said it before, but this is the real deal this time. We're hitting the bricks, gonna mosey, gonna sashay, gonna clear out, vamoose, saying adios, ciao, Wiedersehen, sayonara, au revoir, hasta luego, Godspeed, until we meet again, which we won't, because Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium is closing forever. We're never coming back. It's over. We're done. We're shoving off, bowing out, flaking off, getting gone. It's at an end. We're cutting out, kaput, finish, drop the curtain, break camp, pull up stakes, beneath. This is absolutely, positively it this time. We're not pulling your leg on this. Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium is down the road. We swear we won't ever be back. It ain't gonna happen. Forget about it. We're shutting it down. We've lost our lease. Can't find it. Don't care, because we're done. Closing shop. Putting up the shutters. Bolting the doors. Slamming them closed. Gonna board the place up. Nailing it shut. Big nails. Nothing gets in or out. Sealing it off. We're history. We really mean it this time. We're not jerking your chain on this. This ain't no snow job. We're not bluffing. No kidding. So shag your big fat bottom down here, PDQ, because I swear if you dawdle or dink around, you'll be SOL. Because we're closing forever. Any day now. Could be a matter of weeks, days, maybe tomorrow. But then, that's it. Roscoe's Oriental Rug Emporium, going out of business since 1957.
Cashman delivers one last punchline in the spot because at the very bottom of the final art card it reads, opening soon in Northgate. Too funny. Well, today, Phillip will show you how to hone your go-to-market strategy that replaces hackneyed tactics with focused business storytelling.
Storytelling to us is always about the first sentence. And if you do not grab somebody with your first sentence, you need to go back to the drawing board because nobody has patience. This is as true today as it was when I was learning at school all these decades ago. You start off with a strong premise that's logically founded and deeply rooted in truth and in fact and in reality. So that when people go like, You just nailed my problem right there in that first paragraph. And now I'm going to invest my time and to keep going. So storytelling to me is telling the customer something they don't already know. And they suddenly go, okay, this makes sense to me. I'm going to keep going.
Phillip Swan is a dynamic and visionary business leader currently serving as the managing partner at Pi Partners and supporting the family business as the chief revenue officer at LingoAid. Under his leadership, Pi Partners has emerged as a leading GTM, that's go-to-market advisory firm, recognized for its innovative solutions and commitment to driving business growth through strategic customer engagement. Phillip's approach is about meeting immediate business needs, fostering long-term relationships, and building brand loyalty. We're about to show you how you can create a customer-centric go-to-market strategy, what the common pitfalls are in aligning sales and marketing and how you can avoid them, and how the digital transformation impacts traditional go-to-market approaches. So please welcome to the Business of Story, Phillip Swan. Phillip, welcome to the Business of Story.
Thank you for having me, Park.
And I know you're coming to me from my old stomping grounds. You're just up out of Seattle in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, and it's for the first time in a few months, it's actually warm and it's beautiful sunshine.
Well, you're getting into that time of year up there that it's warm, dries up a little bit. Moving into my favorite time is always September, early October. The falls up there are just incredible.
Absolutely beautiful. They are. You're absolutely right.
So today we're going to talk about a couple different avenues of customer centricity. And I think about, customers, really any audience that you have as a customer. It could be actual paying audience. You're a paying customer as an audience. Your internal staff, they're customers because you need to get them to buy into your vision, mission, way of doing things. And we're going to talk a little bit about that divide between sales and marketing and how they end up telling different stories about the same brand and how to overcome that. And take a look at the customer journey and how to be very customer-centric with your stories. So, Phillip, how did you become a customer-centric specialist?
Well, like you, I've got a few gray hairs in my head, so I've been doing this for a while.
Careful.
We won't get into ageism here. But I have the scars in my back from the early days. I started off life as an engineer, but always knew I wanted to get into the business side of things. So I spent the first 15 years of my career actually working as an engineer, an engineering manager, developing product. So really understanding the customer's needs from a product standpoint was how I grew up. And
what kind of products? What kind of engineering
products? These were all technology products, deeply technology products, all B2B. So I've focused on B2B for the majority of my career, with some smattering of B2C in there. But it's primarily B2B products, B2B sales. And when I started carrying the so-called bag as an individual salesperson, I did that transfer from being an engineer into pre-sales, so technical pre-sales, and actually being able to demo products to customers, talk to customers, answer technical questions. And then I rapidly realized that I was making the sales guys very wealthy. Meanwhile, I was earning a pittance. I thought, I'm going to do this job. And it was a nervous transition. I will tell you that, because I was newly married and we were running on fumes financially. So it was a big risk to take. And within my first year, I was our top salesperson globally. And I did that by learning and how to do what we really called consultative selling, which is the precursor to customer centricity. And really about understanding the customer's pain and really being able to relate to the customer in language that the customer not only accepts and understands, but totally, and I love to use the word grok. Many people don't use that word now, but grok for your audience goes back to 1960, A Stranger in a Strange Land. And grokking
Now, wait a minute. What's that word, grok?
Grok. And it's
okay.
And what grok means is you fully understand things with emotional sentiment as well. And it's a word you should look up. It's a word that really says it all. And I've always learned to grok my customers, which is really wearing their shoes, understanding their pain points, and being able to relate to them and give them avenues or paths to success. And you build loyalty that way. So I've had customers since 1988 who are still my customers today. And yes, they're rapidly getting to retirement age, but this is the kind of loyalty that I've bred over the years. And this was really something that is the customer has always been the center of my entire world, and really understanding them so that we can actually solve their problem for them. And then the money starts flowing.
Okay, then a couple questions for you. Did you, as an engineer, did you ever find yourself having to engineer and project manage projects that were bought into by the company, the brand, the manufacturer, just because they were in love with whatever the technology development is without thinking about, does anybody actually really want it?
More times than I care to count, quite honestly.
And did you know it back then? Did your gut tell you, like, why are we doing this? We're not even sure it's going to sell?
Well, that's a really great question, because it was the frustration as a salesperson that the friction that people felt in the product was genuine, and trying to bring that feedback back into a company that wasn't willing to receive that information to do better than their customers has happened more times than I care to imagine. And it takes time to really get the C-suite and the board to understand the need to understand the customer's pain points. Everybody talks the talk of understanding the pain points, but they don't do the hardcore research, which means actually talking to customers and asking open-ended, hard questions that will drive answers back. It might be answers you don't want to hear.
But you got to hear.
But you've got to hear. I mean, look at Slack today. If they had continued down their path, that they had not done a pivot, they would not be the company they are today. There's so many companies that have failed as a result of not pivoting to what the customer actually wants.
I don't know that Slack story. Can you share that with us? What was the pivot they made?
So Slack started up as being for gamers, and being a communication platform for gamers, and they quickly realized that corporations could actually use it for their own internal communications, and that's where they got there, and that's where they really came to it. HubSpot is another great example, because they were swimming in a very red ocean, and your audience may not be familiar with red ocean and blue ocean, but red ocean is where you're swimming with lots of competitors, and you're fighting for little pieces of revenue. Whereas if you can find a way to step outside of the frame, position your brand in such a way, companies will flock to you, which is precisely what HubSpot did by opening up all of their customer research to their customers back in like 2008, I believe it was. And once they had done that and really allowing the customers to see that information, they got so much traction that they've turned into the behemoth that they are today, and they're a great company. And
I just got done working with them, as a matter of fact, doing some sales training around our ABT with their learning and development people.
Right.
So you were in engineering for 15 years, and then you made the move into sales. What was your biggest obstacle, or what was the hardest thing you had to learn to become successful in sales?
So the hardest thing you had to learn is never take no as an answer. But you don't be aggressive about not taking no for an answer.
Annoying.
And that's the key thing, to really read the room and listen to your customers and keep touching base until sometime where you just hit them and the time is right, they're ready. Oh yeah, Philip, yeah, we're ready. Let's go. Let's make this happen. And that's the nurturing phase. So I continually nurture relationships, which is really important. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's not for everybody. Sales is not for everybody. However, I will stress that every person in a company is a salesperson. Whether you're the CEO or whether you're somebody who's at the front desk, you are a salesperson. You are representing your company to your customers, and in finance and in product, all across the organization, which is where true customer-centric organizations, it starts at the board and the C-suite, and it flows down the entire organization.
Yeah, That's so easy to say, but so hard to do, isn't it? I
Correct.
was doing a leadership training in Phoenix not too long ago, and I had 60, well-known leaders in the room. And I asked them, I said, of all of you here, how many are leaders of your business brand or organization? And every hand went up, Phillip. And then I said, and how many of you are in sales? And at least half the room lowered their hands. And I said, I hate to tell you, you're all in sales, whether you like it or not.
That's right. And in the key thing there is using those two things stuck at the edge of your ears and listen. The biggest skill in sales for anybody to learn is to listen, because how many sales people have you learned that just go like blah, 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 talking a million miles a minute? You don't get 5% of what they just said, and you go like, this person just exhausted me. I've got no time for this.
I'm out of here. Yeah.
I'm out of here. It's exactly
The
right.
Lord gave us one mouth and two ears for a reason. And one of my bosses early in my career said, in account executive work in advertising, said, Park, people pay us for what goes on between our ears, so you better use them.
That's right. That's exactly right. And mine are big enough, so they're
Oh, they're fine below all that gray hair like I've got too. So you made the move in. What was the first biggest mistake that you made? Because you had a very successful year. You came out, leading all sales. But what was that first big blunder that you learned from?
The first big blunder that I learned from was really not understanding a new product that we had just released well enough to know where its weaknesses and its strengths were. And I sold the first version of it. Lesson number one: do not sell the first version unless you're totally ready for the mayhem that's going to happen afterwards. And the problem is that they were working a critical project, and our tools at that time was called a compiler, basically taking one language and transferring it into another language to run on the actual computer itself. And the product, frankly, didn't stand up to it. And I had the CEO of a very large defense contractor in Southern California on the phone with me and my CEO, yelling and screaming about how bad it was. And my big mistake was I should have done my homework a lot better. And I never repeated that mistake again.
Why didn't you do it?
Well, I didn't do it in the beginning because I trusted the people, because I had worked with them as an engineer. I trusted their processes. I trusted how they were doing, and they told me it worked. And rather than me try it myself, I took them at their word. It was a trust, but I did not verify.
So you came from the engineering world and knew exactly what their mindset was. Hey, we developed this thing. It's wonderful. Phillip, just go sell it. And you're like, okay. But then you're like, whoops.
Yeah, it was a whoopsie.
Wasn't quite ready to go, huh?
Yes, that was right. But we got out of that mess and became a very strong customer afterwards. And this is a key learning for everybody, is your strongest relationships with customers usually happen from dealing with times of stress and pressure between the two organizations, and by working together and collaborating together, keyword collaborating together, and ensuring success of that customer breeds loyalty. All the anger goes away with a simple thing: I'm sorry, it will not happen again. And I called those my golden knee pads, quite literally, getting down on your knees, and not even, not literally, but begging forgiveness and say, look, this is our fault. This is on us. And never try to apportion blame. Take responsibility for your actions, for your company's actions. You are a representative of your company. You are a representative of your CEO. When I was at Microsoft running 3 global sales divisions, the way I used to describe it to people: you are Bill Gates with your legs dangling over the edge of the building. You are Bill Gates to those people. You are Steve Ballmer to those people. And you have to behave that way. You are CEO of your own business. In sales, you are your own CEO. You need to bring all of the resources together to ensure your success and your customers' success.
So you went from engineering into sales, working at Microsoft. What are you doing now?
What I'm doing now is I'm having a lot of fun. So have 2 companies going. One is a language services company that we're scaling. We provide interpreters to hospitals, banks, corporations. And the other business, which is my passion business, is my consulting business, and I have 3 partners in the business, and we have multiple people working with us. And this is what I do for my living, right? This is what I do to keep myself busy. So we work projects with companies to help them with their entire go-to-market and change management. So we have one of my business partners is a change management guru. Another one is a CMO of high expertise, and myself with more of the CRO background. And together we bring together, and I have the strong product background. We have a strong product person on the team as well. She's also ex-Microsoft, incredible product person. And so we help our clients bring their products to market in a way that creates a seamless customer experience for the entire buyer journey. We focus primarily on B2B. We do have some B2C customers, some big ones. And we do is that we take the old classic funnel, shaped like a funnel, we turn it into a circle, and smack bang in the circle is your customer. And in each part of the journey, we really understand what actions need to be taken by the brand, by the company, by different people in the personnel, so they keep moving the ball down the field. I'm an avid rugby fan. I grew up around rugby. And in rugby, it's all about movement and positioning your best players at the right time in the right position in the field and getting the ball to them so that they can run and score. And it's the same thing here. And I don't believe in big teams. I believe in small teams, because small teams working cohesively together, marketing, sales, product, customer success, finance, can really deliver an incredible solution to each customer's pain points and really drive a value and drive customer value to the customer, so that they're going like, I need more of what they do, and whatever they do next, I'm going to be yelling from the rooftops how good they are. And that's what we focus in on.
Well, let's talk about that funnel for a second. Most people are viewing the side profile of a funnel. It's big on top, small on the bottom,
Yep.
and you want to feed your ideal customers. You essentially have clocked that by about 90 degrees, and now we're looking directly inside, and it's a circle.
Correct.
Can you explain this concept about your circle funnel?
Sure. So it starts with
And be careful of your hands for me, okay?
Absolutely. It starts with pre-awareness. This is a step that most companies miss. And what do I mean about pre-awareness? Pre-awareness is like driving down your neighborhood, like where you live in Flagstaff in Arizona. You will know the various supermarkets that are in your neighborhood purely because you drive by them every day or every week, right? Multiple times. And you know you'll go to one supermarket for these kinds of things, another one for another. You know where to go. That is like pre-awareness. So for a brand, pre-awareness is really, where people start to recognize, oh, I know Acme Company. Why do I know them from? Oh yeah, it's from that LinkedIn campaign or from this video or whatever it was. And it just starts sticking with people, so that when they do have the problem that you can solve for them, they're already predisposed and have some level of trust and awareness of you because they've seen your content out there. Whether it's written content, video content, whatever it is, ensuring that you're consistent in your brand strategy and your brand awareness, that you're catching people early. So they're already predisposed to listening to you, back to listening to those things stuck at the inside of your head, because it's about trust. 76% of B2B buyers today do not want to talk to a human being. Gartner published that recently. That is a very real number. So you still have to form a relationship with the customer. And forming that relationship from a B2B perspective is tough. And so you have to be consistent, and you have to be transparent, and you have to be engaging, which means you also have to be responsive. So you can't just put stuff out there and say, hey, it's out there in the ether. You actually have to start interacting with people, so they go, oh, they are listening to me. Oh, they are talking with me. They're not talking to me. They are understanding my problem, and I want to listen and learn more. And that gets you to the next stage in the buyer journey.
Well, that first stage then is very much about proximity bias, that they have to be aware of you. They have to feel like they're already close to you, whether they've bought anything or not, simply by seeing you over and over again.
Correct. That's exactly
Yeah.
correct. And a big problem that companies have, they think they have product market fit when they in fact have product problem fit. And so product problem fit, the difference between product problem fit and product market fit is that product problem fit, you are selling to customers. You're getting them aware. Product market fit is people are coming to you to buy, right? So your selling process is become a lot simpler and a lot more seamless.
I just had this conversation today with someone when they asked me, and I hadn't heard those two terms before: product problem fit, problem market fit. And they asked me, "How do you sell storytelling and storytelling training?" And I said, "I don't sell. I don't. They have to already be bought in and know the importance of story. Just don't know how to activate it within their team. And so mine is much more of a product market fit.
Right.
They're coming to me. I'm not pushing it on them."
Correct. That's exactly correct. But in the beginning, when they're not aware of you, you have to find your product problem fit. And this is where the pivots happen or should happen because, hey, we started with this great hypothesis. We did our interviews. We thought this would work. We actually get into it. We're learning. We find it's not quite what people want. We can now pivot. We can now adapt. And this is where small teams have real power because you can pivot quickly, test quickly, fail quickly, test again, because guess what? It will take you multiple times until you get it right. That is just reality.
That's the truth. So that product problem fit is a hypothesis. We see a problem out there and we think it needs to be fixed.
Right.
But maybe they're not seeing it right, or maybe it doesn't need to be fixed. So they have to go in, and we all do, try it. Nope, that didn't work. Try it again. See if you're getting any traction at all. And then once you find that core problem that you're solving for, then you become a product market.
Correct. And they're coming to you. That's exactly right. And you've got to be listening to your customers and talking to your customers continually, interviewing customers with non-cognitive bias questions and open-ended questions is really, really important. And if you don't want to hear the answers, you shouldn't be in business. You've got to listen. You've got to feel the pain. You've got to get that feel. I was wrong. I was wrong. Well, guess what? It's okay to be wrong. You pivot when you're wrong, right? And that's where resilience comes in. And resilience is absolutely key because I see this with my own sons who are in their late 20s, right? You know, it's that mentality today. Well, if I tried it once and it doesn't work, well, I'm done, right?
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And as much as I've tried to train my kids, it's definitely cultural, and it takes time to learn this. That resilience and that ability to ask open-ended questions, stop your mouth moving, and listen.
Asking those unbiased questions is really hard because biases are so built into us. They're so natural.
Yes.
Have you heard of, it's one of my favorite marketing books over the last 5 years, Nancy Harhunt's book called Using Behavioral Science in Marketing, subhead, Drive Customer Action and Loyalty by prompting instinctive responses. Have you read that book?
I have not read the book.
Marvelous.
I will. Thank you for the hint. I will definitely
highly recommend it. Yeah, because it helps us try to uncover our own biases, and then even hear the biases in other people sitting across from them, and then use those in kind of a jujitsu move to get them to understand and feel what we're talking about.
If you feel that little knot in your stomach, you're on the right path.
What do you mean by that?
What that means is if this doesn't feel right, you're using your gut instinct. So it's just like something's not right here. I need to delve quickly. Now, people call this the 5 whys, and where it's like you continually probe until you can probe no further. Why? And it drives some people nuts, but you get to the truth very quickly by doing that, because it forces people to actually think with clarity, that they're not able to explain it. And I like to be able to talk to people in language and write to people in language that a 14-year-old can understand. Not because I think they're dumb, not because I think they're stupid. It's nothing to do with that. We all have our own language that we use. So using simplicity language in how we talk and in how we do, we don't talk in acronyms, we don't talk in in industry specific terms until we've actually explained them first. Are we so you get context between both parties that you're actually talking the same language. It's almost like having a translator in the middle or an interpreter in the middle to make sure that we're actually talking the same language.
Well, I'm having so much fun with what you're telling me. I've gotten lost in the steps. So you have that pre-awareness stage, that proximity bias, and then we got into resiliency. Was there one in between those two?
So the resiliency was just continually going to get to the truth, right? So you can move to the next stage in the buyer journey, right? So pre-awareness, awareness, learning, right? So all of these have to be easily accessible for people because they do this at their own pace, their own way, right? They're not going to talk, it's going to be rare that they will talk to you directly during those phases unless they actually know you first. Because this is about, I want to see what people are saying about the company, about the brand, about the products, about the people. Because 50% of every brand is the organization itself. And if people within the company are not exuding the brand through the pores of their skin with their excitement and their content, the brand is not going to go very far. The reason being is the customers sense this. It's a sixth sense for customers. And so when they see people, smart people, fun people, I can identify with, because this is me, you're talking my language now, then people are now receptive to opening their hearts up. Remember, people buy with their hearts. They think with their head, but buy with their hearts.
You're singing my song, man. They buy with their hearts. They justify the purchase with their heads.
Correct. Which is getting to the awareness and learning stage. So they suddenly get excited. And now when they once they've learned, now they have intent to purchase, they start reaching out. I need to talk to somebody. Right? This is at the point where you start engaging. You do not need to sell them at this point. You should not need to sell them. This is about building the relationship, the physical relationship, translating the digital relationship into a physical relationship, and then being able to rapidly define the solution that they want. And when I run sales teams, which I do every day, I tell my salespeople every single time, the first time you meet with a customer, don't open your laptop. You sit and you listen. You question and you listen. Your second meeting, you come back with a solution that they've just told you, and the customer goes, how the heck did you know that? This is exactly what I want. And the reason is, well, guess what? I listened to what you said you needed, and we've created this solution for you. And they go, amazing. And so suddenly your sales cycle goes from bumpy 6 months, bumping down the road, maybe going back a few steps and here, to having this smooth flow where you can usually close people instead of this 6 to 12 months in that 4 to 8 months range, depending on the value of the software or the products that you're selling, right? And depending on the approvals that have to go through, each sale will be different. But by eliminating any guesswork for the customer, and giving them a solution that looks bespoke to them. It's not bespoke, but it looks bespoke to them. They're going to suddenly go, I'm listening to these folks better than I'm looking at the competition, because the competition just wants to sell me something, whereas these people are actually listening to me. They want to solve my problem. And if you're solving that person's problem, they're going to pay you handsomely day in and day out. And then your margins suddenly go up. And you're no longer discounting because you're selling value, right? And
repeat volume.
Yes, and volume. That's correct. Value and volume. And you do that for every customer, or you attempt to do that for every customer, magical things start to happen. That thing called scale starts to happen.
Yeah. So, Phillip, in the B2B world, I often make the joke that it doesn't really stand for business to business. It stands for boring to bored. and especially in the tech world, in the high thinking, intellectual world, they think you're going to buy on the data, the charts and the graphs, when it's really a story that sells to that emotion that they say, I think I want this, and then they justify the purchase with their logical reason brain with the data. How do you use storytelling in your training of your salespeople?
Oh my gosh, I love storytelling. So I grew up in a family of writers. So my entire family, we've got two quite prominent journalists in my family, authors in my family. These are all my immediate family. And so storytelling to us is always about the first sentence. And if you do not grab somebody with your first sentence, you need to go back to the drawing board, because nobody has patience. And this is as true today as it was when I was learning at school all these decades ago. It is, you start off with a strong premise that's logically founded and deeply rooted in truth and in fact and in reality. So that when people go like, you just nailed my problem right there in that first paragraph. Now I'm going to invest my time and to keep going. So storytelling to me is you've got to organize it in such a way as you grab their attention, not with clickbait, but with real fact and real value right there. Telling the customer something they don't already know. And they suddenly go, okay, this makes sense to me. I'm going to keep going. And it's like when you go to Hudson's at the airport and you look at that the cover of the book, say, okay, the cover looks pretty. I'm attracted to the cover. The title looks interesting. I'm attracted to that. Let me look at the first summary of the book. And suddenly, I like this person's style. I'm going to read this on the plane, right?
Yeah.
And it's that same thing. And you put the meat together and you don't make it overly complex. I can't read these long articles anymore, like in the Atlantic, because I simply don't have the time. They're amazing articles, but I simply don't have time. I can only read in short form now because that's how much time I have, right? And it's true. I'm not the only person out there in that. There are many, many, many people there. So keep it brief, true, factual, and easy to read, i.e. simple language, so people aren't having to go like, what does he mean by that, right?
Yeah.
And so you're leaving them with a very clear message and very clear takeaway at the end that has a call to action. It goes like, I either want to read more of this or I actually want to talk to this person, whatever the next action is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why we teach to so many sales and marketing teams the and, but, therefore structure. It does exactly what you're talking about. In under 15 seconds, in one simple paragraph, you use the three forces of story, of agreement, contradiction, and consequence to hook into that pattern-seeking, problem-solving, decision-making, buying limbic brain. And it does exactly what you're talking about there. It addresses the subject from your audience's point of view, what's in it for them and why it's important to them, but why they don't have it.
That's
right.
That
big but is we call it the but bomb because it triggers that limbic survival problem solution brain. But you're frustrated because of this major problem. Therefore, if we could fix it, what would the future look like to you? And then go, I want to hear more. And then you can get in and start talking about what your solution is.
You've actually just hit a nail in the head for me, quite honestly, with what you just said, because one of the first questions that I ask any potential client is, what future are you solving for? And then we reverse engineer from there. And that's what it's about. It's not selling for the future. It's about taking your future that you want and your nirvana, your Valhalla, whatever you call that place of magical wonderment where if everything was pretty and everything was perfect, what would it look like? Now let's reverse engineer that into something that you can actually implement and deploy and reach that nirvana.
Well, and I believe that works because you are triggering the narrative portion of a person's brain. We are the only creatures that we know that think, plan, organize, and act using story and narrative. Because that future is always a fiction until you make it a reality. But it triggers that brain and they can picture it. They can start feeling it. The endorphins start kicking in. And now you have emotionally hook them. And then it's always great, like, okay, but why don't you have it? What's going on? And then they go, oh shit, and then they go into the hole and they say, here's the big problem we're solving for. And then you are there saying, we may have a solution. It could be a total solution. It could be a partial solution.
And that's where
but
partnerships
we've got a way forward.
And that's where partnerships come in. That's where the solution, when you present back to the customer, let me bring partner X here, because between partner X, partner Y, and our company, we can give you the complete solution you're looking for more cost effectively than trying to go to some other mechanism. And you can trust us to get there, because here are the proof points. And again, you have to deliver those proof points. And those include customer references, those include customer success stories, those include, you name the gamut, where people say, oh, they had the same problem with me. I'm not alone in this world. And they chose these people. And I recognize them because I've seen them in the world and they're using them. Heck, I'm using those guys.
Now, Phillip, you and I are very close to this kind of thing. I hear it a lot from our guests, and I practice it with the Business of Story. You obviously have perfected it with your work there. And quite often it can sound so banal. It sounds so obvious.
Correct.
But why don't more people use it?
The reason more people do it, because everybody's got their own little world, right? And I'm not trying to say that in a condescending way. We've all got our own world. You've got yours. I've got mine. People down the street have their own. And it's like worlds either collide and repel, like putting north to north poles together in a magnet. They just repel. Or we actually attract, right? And that attraction comes from curiosity. That attraction comes from the proof points that you've seen on the product, where they suddenly go, I want to be part of this journey because I can see that their employees love working here. They can see that their employees love their customers. I can see that their partners love working with them. Because very few companies have the entire solution now, right? So partnerships are a staple of B2B sales. And finding the right partnerships with the right cultural fit are as equally as important as finding the right customers with the right customer culture fit. And that it's through partnerships that scale happens, because you focus on being the expert on what you do and not thinning your ranks out to try and do an okay job of something else that somebody else has a phenomenal solution for that's not in your wheelhouse. Bring the partnerships together, and then you'll start to see that innovation, which is a fancy word for change, that innovation happens as a result of people collaborating together. And it's that collaboration which we kind of lost during COVID. It's because we had fewer and fewer in-person meetings, to now where we've got this true hybrid mix where people are now comfortable in forming relationships over a remote video session, as opposed to actually flying all the way across to New York, staying at the hotel, getting up in the morning, going to your meetings, and then getting on a flight home, and you've just lost 3 days. You can still have that relationship as if you were in person. Ultimately, you do want to break bread with people, no question about it. But that comes later, right? You just got to start that relationship. The relationship is key. And change management is also critical, which is why, when I founded my consulting company, my business partner, my primary business partner at the time, he's a change management guru, because you have to bring people along in the journey too. Back to storytelling, you have to be able to have that ability that people can actually see how this is possible. Not why is it possible, but how they can. It's like staging a house when you're selling it. People have no imaginations to look at an empty room and say, well, this is where the furniture would look at. So people have, the houses are staged for a specific reason, right? It's to get people onto a level set where they can imagine their stuff in that house, or I can imagine my problem getting solved by this company because I have seen, through proof points, how good they are. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally does. Yeah, you've got to invite them into your story. You had said earlier when engineering and gets all lost on their widget and whatever, and I often proclaim that stories are not about what you make, but what you make happen in people's lives. They are buying that outcome, that nirvana that you talked about. And earlier said when you got into sales, there was a little bit of disconnect between engineering and sales, and we had also talked about this major disconnect between sales and marketing,
Yes,
which to this day I still don't understand because it is about partnership. They're all
correct.
trying to get to the end game. Why is there such a divide, and how do you cross it?
Well, I think it. I think it exists because the C-suite has allowed it to exist, and the board has allowed it to exist. And I'm not saying that because they're bad. It's not that, they just don't know any different, right? This is the way we've always done it, right? And so every so what I how you solve it, at least how I solve it for our clients, is I literally draw out a process map of the entire company, and each box, whether it's in sales and marketing, that's how I start. And by interviewing people, what their functions are, to where I can rapidly show the C-suite, here's your company today, and if we change these 5, 10, 15, you prioritize the list, here's how we can create a seamless customer experience and a seamless buyer journey for your buyers. But it's got to be across the organization. It's not just marketing, it's not just sales, it's product, it's finance, it's partnerships, it's customer success, it's everybody, right? And you start to share these processes by drawing out each map and then double clicking, as I call it. You double click into that box, and then you see the actions each person in the company has to do to ensure we have got that seamless experience. And finance hates it. And the way
Why does finance hate it?
because it means they have to start talking to customers in a way that customers will be
Oh,
receptive, right? Because you're dealing with money, right? And so getting that to be as frictionless as possible. And the way you solve it, to answer your question, is by having consistent KPIs across the entire company, for the entire company, and then each team has its own individual ones. And everybody talks about annual recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue. Those are lagging indicators in my book. I want to see leading indicators. And what would be some leading indicators that we use? If you're a SaaS company, a software as a service company, or an infrastructure as a service company, or a platform as a service company, two KPIs that are really, really important. One is net revenue retention, and the other is gross revenue retention. They are both different. One's an index, one is a percentage. The reason I work with both is that net revenue retention the whole purpose of having net revenue retention and gross revenue retention, let's just start there, is to
mhm.
highlight customer success, customer problems earlier than later. Because like any problem, the sooner you solve it, the easier it is to solve. So before you start to see churn happening, being able to catch potential issues and resolving those quickly will dramatically reduce churn. And your net revenue retention has a habit of, if you've signed a multi-year deal, like a 3-year deal with a company, it will obfuscate actual issues that you may have with your annual with your annual agreements. And so that's why you use gross revenue retention as well. So because it starts, if the numbers don't jive, you've got a problem, Houston. Let's double click and actually find out where the problem is.
Yeah, interesting. So you said we've got a problem, Houston, which took me to outer space, which took me to Martian land, and your book, or that word grok. I had to look it up while you were
There you
talking
go.
there. Here's what it means: to understand intuitively or by empathy, to establish rapport with, and to empathize or communicate sympathetically with that individual sitting across from you. So it's just like getting out of your own head and getting into theirs.
That's right.
Wear their shoes, as you were saying.
That's exactly right. And
Well, go ahead.
and I love walking my customers' shoes, because it starts to open up avenues of ways that they can do it. Now, some companies are receptive to it and some companies aren't, right? Because what usually comes out of there for me is like, here are directions how we can take the product with some slight repackaging, not re-engineering, just some repackaging. And all of a sudden we go from a red ocean, which is highly competitive, to a blue ocean where we're swimming alone and we just like bring it home every time.
And you're just changing the story internally. You're changing the story that's going on between their ears, and you're changing the customer-facing story to say, we have a better solution for this precise particular problem. Right. So to your point, you have to get in their shoes to have to take that first step to help solve their problem for them. You've got a newsletter, I guess.
Yes, I do.
Weekly. Tell us a little bit about that, and where can people find it?
I have a weekly newsletter. It's on LinkedIn. So if you go to my profile, which is Phillip-Swan, with Phillip with 2 L's, PHILLIP-SWAN on LinkedIn. The first thing you should see is my newsletter called the Go-to-Market Edge. And the Go-to-Market Edge every week goes into, explores in quite detail various aspects of the customer or buyer journey and how to solve them, and sales issues and how to solve them, marketing issues and branding issues, how to solve them, partnerships as well, and change management. So we cover the gamut in the newsletter. So I welcome your audience to check it out and to subscribe. And I promise you, I won't be spamming you. It's just you read it. I have very loyal readership and who love the content, which, you know, is, I believe it or not, I'm actually quite humble. So I'm actually quite surprised that people are going like, people do want to listen to me. And it's because I'm delivering some value to them. The key thing is, in every newsletter, I deliver some value. Free.
Yeah. Well, Phillip, thank you so much for taking the time here. Is there LinkedIn? Is that the best place to find you, or do we want to send them anywhere else?
So, yes, we're building us. We are actually my partners and I are co-authoring a series of 3 books right now, which will be released in 2025. And there's Go-to-Market Unleashed is the overarching title. And the first book is Building Irreversible Momentum. The second book is Harnessing Irreversible Momentum. And the third book is Sustaining Irreversible Momentum. The whole concept there is you've got the wind in your back. You know, you're doing the right things. You can mess up, but you'll still keep moving forward, right? And being able to crack things.
I love that. It kind of falls in line with what I like to preach, and that is my know, like, and trust storytelling flywheel. 3 steps. You've got to first be known for something that people actually need and, you know, want to buy into. You become more likable by sharing your stories and showing the impact that you have in the real world in action. And then you become trusted as they come back for repeat business and start sharing your story with their world. And it builds that same sort of irreversible momentum. And it's a simple 3-step structure for story marketing without taking it too deep.
Exactly.
So that's great. I can't wait for your books. We'll have to have you back when your first book hits it. I'd love that, Phillip. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Park.
You heard me, of course, mention in the show how you can use the ABT narrative framework to help hone your go-to-market brand story strategy. One of my favorite books on market category design is Christopher Lochhead's Play Bigger. I highly recommend this book for your library because Chris is a legendary Silicon Valley go-to-market guru. And here's what he had to say about using the ABT in category design.
So you gave me a gift with the ABT. You know, in category design, we have this thing called a POV, a point of view. And it is simply structured very similarly to that of the ABT, which is essentially, and this is such a profound insight, it sounds like it's nothing, just like the ABT. In a point of view, it goes like this. Nobody buys a solution until they have a problem. And so a point of view starts with framing, naming, and claiming a problem. And when people understand the problem/opportunity, then they become interested in the solution. And then, of course, the third piece from a POV perspective is how your product or service, or your idea for that matter, you might not be actually marketing or selling anything, bridges the gap between the problem/opportunity and therefore the solution. Okay, so with all that said, why do I love the ABT? The ABT takes the thinking that we did around points of view and does a fantastic, legendary double click on it. And that's why the and button therefore model is pure genius. It allows you to relate to people. Then it gives them the but, which tees up the problem. And then the therefore, which points the way to the different future, aka solution. And it's easily rememberable. And if you start to play with it, as I have since you taught it to me, just like anything else, you develop some prowess with it, starts working. You're like, wow, it's almost weird how this works.
If I can help you and your team refine your brand story and learn how to tell it, hit me up at park@businessofstory.com, or you can start your journey now with our micro training course called the ABTs of Storytelling. You can check it out at businessofstory.com/ABT. But you'd better hurry because we're closing it down, shutting the doors, sashaying down the road, boarding it up. We're not kidding this time. Okay, maybe a little bit. Hey, I'd like to thank Caden Howell, Marissa Hill, and Darius Holbert for our show's excellent editing, marketing, and music in that order. And thank you for listening to and sharing this edition of The Business of Story with anyone you know who will benefit from growing as a more concise, clear, and compelling storyteller. Please join us next Monday when we'll show you how to find your funny in your business storytelling and presentations with acclaimed New York showrunner, Marta Ravin. Until then, remember that the most potent story you will ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make that one a great one. Thanks so much for listening.